And just like that, episode 7 is upon us. Thank you, everybody that watched last week. Last week was episode 6, and I am Jonathan Cook. I would like to say thank you to everyone who watched episode 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, or 1, especially those of you that have found this for the very first time and you're tuning in to episode 7, the number of completion in the Word of God. So I'm so excited to be here with Taylor Perky. Taylor, how are you doing?
It's good to be here.
Look at that camera angle. My guy. Taylor, if you had a theme song, what would it be?
If I had a theme song, what would it be?
My guy.
Every time.
Also, our two lovely co-hosts, Mr. Brooks Summer. How you doing, Brooks?
Doing excellent, Jonathan.
And Mr. Jason Brinston.
Good afternoon, everybody.
You know, last week, we're going to pick up right where we left off and just dive right in. Somebody messaged us between last week and this week and said, can you keep the gratitude train going? We see you. We know who you are. And to remain nameless, we'll just say, yeah, if you are watching this episode and you have something that you're grateful for or God showed up in your life in the last 7 days between last Wednesday and today, would you drop that in the chat? And we will be reading some of those gratitudes as we go through this. I will say a big victory for the Infinite Agent podcast. Just 7 episodes in, we have already hit 37 subscribers on YouTube. So,
That is awesome.
yeah. I think about the time that Brooks said our 32nd follower. That would always haunt me. And I was like, why do we only want a follower that watches for 30 seconds? And he's like, no, we have 31 followers on YouTube. We need our 32nd one. So
You got to keep them wanting more.
that's exactly right. Kind of like a fish on the line. You kind of tug on it a little bit and they keep chasing it. Jason, you were talking to me about something before we went on air, and it really spoke to me because it made me think about myself, and I didn't expect that. So before we went on air, I was like, Jason, why don't you bring that to the public? And you want to talk about that for a second?
Sure. Remind me what that topic was.
Well, when
I
we
think
were
it's
talking
about growth.
Yeah, when we were
Oh.
talking about growth.
Yeah,
And, You know, it stuck with me because it kind of stung a little bit. I hadn't thought about that quote in quite a while. Do you remember what the quote was?
Yeah, so the quote is, if you're either growing or you're dying.
That's what it was.
And
yeah.
that is not just for real estate agents. That is across the world, all industries. That's your faith. If you're standing still, if you're stagnant, that's just a slow death.
Yeah. And kind of rubs off on me, the people that I hang out with, you know, they can really rub off on you. And you hang out with stagnant people, you're going to become stagnant yourself. I've heard it put, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, but also you have the average income of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
That's 100% correct. And so whenever it comes down to it, you are going to have to control your environment, or your environment will control you.
Oh, there it is.
And so you have to be thinking about everything and being very purposeful. Growth doesn't just happen. Sometimes it requires you to choose to put yourself out there and do things that are uncomfortable.
Yeah, and you know, we talk about it a lot with you have to decide before you get in the environment. We talk about a life by design or a life by default. And if you choose to have just a life that happens to you rather than a life that you design, you'll be in a situation where someone offers you alcohol and it's free, and it shows up in the form of a couple drink tickets at a mixer. And if you hadn't decided ahead of time, hey, I don't drink, that's my stance, that's where I'm at on this, and someone hands you 2, $13 tickets each that are great cocktails, I mean, sure, I mean, give me one of those. Those are pretty. They have a leaf and a lemon and an umbrella. These are things that you have to decide ahead of time. And I think the same goes kind of with what y'all are saying, that your friendships, your relationships, all that has to be decided ahead of time, or relationships will what? Happen to you, right?
And they'll pull you in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
And this is not just for relationships. This is family sometimes. Sometimes you have to love family from a distance.
Wow. Yeah, and sometimes that we choose our friends, but we don't always get to choose our family. And sometimes whenever you raise your level of expectation from your own life, say, hey, I got some family that just, my ear gate and my eye gate are protected to a level where if I'm going to be around, they say misery loves company. If I'm going to be around miserable people that are naysayers or lack mentality, even if they're family, they still don't earn the right to be in my proximity just because they're family. Is that right?
That's correct, yeah. Go ahead,
Just
Brett.
like iridium or uranium, you know, you have to limit your exposure to toxic elements. So you wouldn't want to spend every day getting X-rayed because it can damage you. So
Yeah.
the same thing is going to be true with
Wow,
the
that's
people
good.
that you put yourself around. And it's important that you are consistently considering what you are doing in your environment.
Yeah, this is so interesting because when you go into an X-ray, you have that vest on, right? And that vest is heavy, but they have you do you take off all jewelry for a reason, you know. And when I go hang out with people, sometimes I haven't done a great job of choosing the environment I'm about to hop into. I'm like forced to be in this environment, and then I get there and I'm like, oh man, I'm being exposed. I'm being exposed. Gossip's happening, naysaying's happening, victim mentality's happening. I put on the vest. Then I slowly gypsy fade. I've given my permission to myself to gypsy fade when my ear gate, because what you deposit into your ear gate, your eye gate gets deposited into your heart, and the word says, out from the heart, the overflow of the heart, the mouth speaks.
Yes.
If I'm depositing that crap, I'm also withdrawing that stuff out of my mouth, and pretty soon I have speech and mentality and words that aren't becoming of who I am, and it's like I can take that right back to that radiation I was exposed to in that group of people that I was at.
You know, Jonathan, this goes back to something you said a few episodes back that really resounded with me, and that was, you know, when a beautiful woman walks by, you're not held accountable for that first look.
Correct.
You turn and you look and you see that you're held accountable for that second look, and you're held accountable for the thoughts that happen after that.
So good.
And being around these wrong kind of individuals, the people that you surround yourself with that maybe you shouldn't. To me, it's the same kind of concept. I'm not going to be held accountable for the conversation that pops up that I can't control.
Right, yeah.
But I am going to be held accountable for whether I participate in it, how long I continue to stand there and listen to it.
Yeah, that's good, because you have so many times where you're like, whoa, I don't talk like this. I don't let this, you know, for me, there's some words that I just don't let enter my ear gate. When they happen, I'm not responsible for the first time they happen. I'm responsible for the second time they happen in my first action. If my first action is just stick into that and say, you know, I don't want to make it awkward and leave, that's what I'm responsible for. But man, it's so true. Those deposits into your ear gate and your eye gate, it's going to overflow later. You know, we're naturally chameleons. As salesmen, we're naturally going to mirror and match people, and so that stuff comes out. Let's go to the chat, because there's quite a bit coming through. Catherine Bostic says, Branson's brave battle is cancer-free. Let's celebrate that.
All right.
Come on. That is awesome. Give me
Praise
some
God.
love there. Jose Torres, he is a faithful Infinite Agent podcast consumer. Thank you. He says, good afternoon, comma, gentlemen, period. Love that. Bobby Jr. Stevens, prayers for wife tomorrow, heart process at the hospital. So if you would put your wife's name in there, we can be praying for her by name tonight. Thank you, Bobby, for that transparency. Isn't there something endearing about transparency? I just love that. That was not easy for him to kind of tell us the battle he's going through, and his wife is. Jose says, my church brothers are often there more times than my actual brothers. Smiling emoji. Boy, that's true.
I know that's right.
Yeah. I was thinking about, you know, we talk about real estate a lot on this podcast, and we're all three in real estate. And Taylor is with us every day because his headquarters are here at Airwave Studios. And, you know, one thing I was thinking about that we also talked about this week is real estate is not just about property, it's about people. And you have to grow your relationships, and then your business will follow. Talk to me about a time where you sold something to somebody that was already in relationship with you, maybe a friend, a family member, and why you felt that was important.
Well, I think that whenever it comes to it, when you are a highly skilled agent, you know that you're going to give them the best service and help them get the best deal. Mm-hmm. And to bring it full circle with where we started with this about our environment, we have the ability as we go through these transactions to impart on the other person a different type of mindset. You know, you're not always going to get the best inspection report back on a buyer or a seller. And so it doesn't have to be the thing that stops the transaction. So, because I had a seller very recently, we went through a lot of obstacles when it came to selling his commercial property. Anywhere from the people that sold it to him not disclosing things and him now having to figure that out and disclose them, or the fact that he did an owner finance and they were giving him trouble in regard to paying off the loan. each time that we would talk, we would always end it on a positive note.
Yeah.
And that did more for him and buoying his spirits as opposed to me going with the misery and being down on it and then leaving him on a down note. So the choice of always leaving people on a high note, always working to invest in them, give them some of your perspective when your perspective is beneficial and encouraging, because this is going to be, the real estate transaction is oftentimes the most expensive transaction anyone's ever going to do.
Yeah.
And it also has the most fear involved in it of the future of, well, what happens if the payment goes up? What happens if this goes wrong on the house? What happens if I lose my job? So you've got all of these different fear points that could be throughout the transaction. But if you're always inspiring, giving them good feedback on the positives that are going to come from it, the ability to build wealth, have a stable place where you live, your rent doesn't go up as much, or your mortgage payment doesn't go up as much as your rent, because the only things that are going to change on it are going to be your insurance and your taxes, and you have the ability to control those, but you have no ability to control what your rent is going to do. You have no accumulation of wealth. You have no stability when you rent, for the most part. So there are these different things that you can remind the client about, of the positives and the positives of their situation. Well, at least we found that out now. At least we didn't get through the end of this and you found it out after you've closed.
Yeah.
And so all of these things can be dealt with. It's only a relationship of time and money. And so by inspiring people, by encouraging them, by giving them something to buoy their spirits as you get off the phone with them whenever they've had a trying thing that's come up, is the best way to leave that. And you are giving them the mindset that you already have and sowing seeds.
Yeah, 100%. You know, I talk about renters all the time, and their interest rate is 100% interest
Yes.
because they are paying their money to somebody else's wealth building. I'm grateful for it as a landlord, but also I wear two hats. You know, I'm blessed to own multiple rental properties, so I serve as a landlord, and I have some tenants that have been with me over a decade. Matter of fact, I have one tenant that has paid more in rent than I paid for the house.
Wow.
Him and his family are happy there. They've been happy for a long time, but the amount of money that I paid for that house in 2014, you add up all the rent he's paid since 2014, he's paid more than I paid for that house. And what we're talking about today is your rent is due, and so is your growth. And on my real estate hat side, I want everybody to know that Barry Bledsoe is the example I'm going to use here real quick. He's watching live from Crowley. He says, "Good afternoon, gentlemen," from Crowley, Texas. He's watching live on YouTube. Now, Barry is on our team, and just this week, he was able to close a client. We talked a little bit about this, Brooks, you did last episode. He was able to close a client for $1,500 out of pocket. And at closing, this is a neighborhood in Cleburne, just across from the Department of Motor Vehicles, where you get a driver's license in Cleburne. Brand new build, $1,500 out of pocket, and then they're going to get more than that $1,500 back at closing through some sort of legal rebate program in that neighborhood. And it's at either $399 or $499, their interest rate. This is literally a situation, and I'm talking to anybody that's consuming this podcast, whether it's live or on the replay. We have scenarios, we have homes that are brand new, that are awesome, awesome homes, and you can get in there for under $2,000 cash. So people think all the time, man, I don't have $20,000, $30,000. I don't have $50,000, $80,000. You don't need it. Right now especially, and we talked about this yesterday in our training, while the iron's hot, you need to strike. We don't know how long this will be this good for buyers, but builders are desperate at the moment, and they'll almost give the home to you. Have you seen anything like this, Brooks or Jason?
Yeah, we experience this on a daily basis. New construction is a really big area of my business. I just put a client under contract 2 weeks ago, week and a half ago, and got him a $30,000 reduction on the price of the house. Got him a 3.99% interest rate.
Shoot.
Got the builder to throw in gutters, 2-inch forward blinds.
What was the price point?
The price point started off at $345. We got them down to $320.
Okay, if you're watching this live or on the replay, and you have an agent who would work for you like Jason and can get you a house that's listed at $345 down to $315, Drop it in the chat if you think that would be a win for you. I mean, that just sounds awesome. That's a win
Well,
for anybody.
We got them all the incentives, including their closing costs paid for. So these people came out of pocket almost nothing to
Yeah.
get into a brand new house. And when we started off, this is the funny thing. So I don't know if anybody's familiar with NACA. NACA is not an easy program to go through. They're very difficult. I've dealt with them. They were a call that came in
What does
because
it stand for?
NACA, National Association of Community, I don't remember.
Okay.
Yeah.
So NACA.
Do you
okay.
recall, Brooks?
I think I don't think it's national. I think it's Texas.
Okay, then I'm wrong. Whatever it is, it's a program, a grant program where they give you.
Neighborhood Assistance Corporation.
There it is. They give you. They help people get into homes that could potentially otherwise not be able to qualify.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
NACA. Yes.
And so they're super difficult. They make clients, buyers, go through months and months and months worth of education, training, savings in order to qualify. This young couple had been doing this for months and came in. We're about to pay. Thought they were going to buy for about $300. NACA came back and said, "Yeah, no, you didn't save enough money. You're only approved for $230."
Wow.
And so they called Zillow. Zillow dropped the ball, did not show up to show them the house. We got the phone call. Brooks passed it to me because of my experience with NACA. I was able to sit down with them and have a conversation and get them a far better deal just going straight to the builder than they were going to get through a program.
Okay, so Taylor Perky is, one of our co-hosts on the show. Taylor, you're believing for your first home very soon.
Yeah.
I'm going to mention this, and Taylor, are you in an apartment or are you in a rent house right now?
I'm in an apartment right now.
Okay, so when Taylor gets his first home, a lot of things will change for him. He'll need a weed eater. He'll need a lawnmower. He'll have lawn maintenance. He's going from an apartment to a home. I want to describe, because I brought this, because you talked to me about NACA, and we also talked about NACA on The Real Solution, our training program. There's 7 things about NACA on how it works that people don't understand. So I brought this today because I just wanted to go down the list real quick. Number 1, you have to attend a NACA workshop online or in person. This is the first required steps. And if you want to attend a NACA workshop, we can tell you where they are. Reach out to Jason, Brooks, or myself, or Chad. Then you have to become a member. It's free, but you'll need to provide documents and go through budget counseling, a NACA member. Then you work with a NACA counselor. They'll walk you through creating realistic budget, paying off debt, getting ready. Then number 4, you get NACA qualified. So once you're qualified, you'll receive a letter showing how much house you can afford. Then number 5, you work with a NACA real estate agent, which all of us are, to find a home. The number 6, you go through NACA's unique underwriting. They do manual underwriting. And then you close on your home. And NACA handles all the lender communication. You don't pay lender fees, closing costs. You don't pay PMI. You have 0 down payment, no credit score requirement, below market interest rates, and then you can also buy down the interest rate. Taylor, hearing that, what are your thoughts?
I mean, that sounds like a pretty good deal.
It's pretty awesome. Like, there's no private mortgage insurance, which if you don't put 20% down on a property, you have to pay this what's called PMI each month on top of your mortgage until you have 20% down accumulated in your home. But like no credit score requirement, no down payment, low interest rates. It's like 0 closing cost. I mean, so NACA is something that I'm glad Jason brought up because we want people to know there's programs out there like that.
There are, yeah.
And you have this stigma of, wow, it's going to be so expensive to buy a home. It's going to cost 5 figures. I know Brooks deals with that because he works with buyers a lot. But a lot of them say this: Brooks, Jason, Jonathan, Chad, I need to know how much I need to buy a home. I want to buy a home. Taylor, wasn't that something that we had a conversation around? How much do I need to buy a home? And most people think it's tens and tens of thousands of dollars. And especially right now, that's just not the case.
That's correct. And we do think that with what is going to happen on bank rates, that the bank is going to, their deposit requirements are going to change for what they need for the stress test. And that's going to free up about $5 to $7 trillion worth of money that can go towards treasuries, which will bring down interest rates. And then with all the other talk, we think that there's setting up a point where this time next year, the market's going to be on fire.
Yeah.
And builders are not going to have to offer the crazy things that they're offering now, and prices are going to start going up because of all the demand.
Yeah, we have a question here. What do I need to know up front about a NACA loan? So that's a very good question. You just need to know that they do require you to participate in the NACA community, which is like attending workshops or helping others. So it's not just a free ride. You have to give back. But also the process can be, it's very thorough, so it can be a little slower. And then this is not for investors. Like this has to be an owner-occupied home. So this is for people in the same situation or similar situation to Taylor. Like I want to live in the home, I want to own the home. This is not for investors. And then you have to have stable income for 12 to 24 months. So those are really the only requirements, and then we can get you a NACA loan.
Well, there's a few other things because NACA treats every buyer as an individual situation. So you're going to be partnered with a NACA success counselor, and they're going to walk you through the things that you need to do. So this particular buyer, they were told that they needed to save up nearly 6 months worth of house payments in order to qualify. It's based on their debt-to-income ratio, their current status, their income amount, and but each person I've dealt with on this has been a little bit different, and each one will have their own idea at the very end on whether that was worth it or not.
I love that. And, you know, this is, we're talking about rent is due, and so is your growth. And, you know, growth doesn't happen in comfort zones. Buying your first home when you've been comfortable with calling the landlord when something breaks or leaks or something needs attention, that's going to require growth because you have no more landlord. You are the landlord. But this growth happens in the stretch, the risk, and the leap. So universal, this is kind of inspiring anyone who's chasing growth, whether in life, business, or faith. Take the leap. You will be so glad you did. I remember the first time that I bought my first home. It was such a leap. And Brooks talked about the emotion of all of it. And I think that's probably the greatest barrier. And I want to ask Taylor, I'm going to put him on the spot a little bit. But Taylor, what would you say is the greatest barrier for you on home ownership? Like what's been probably the biggest preventive thing that's kept you from owning a home so far?
Oh, that's on the spot. Probably just like the mental hurdle of it all.
Yeah. Yeah, like I think that a lot of people don't understand the process. Not saying Taylor doesn't, but I'm saying like the process, I don't do this every day. The mental hurdle of, oh crap, now it all falls on me. What are your thoughts?
I think that a lot of it is it's easier to make a 1-year commitment versus a 30-year commitment.
Wow.
Not that anyone actually stays in the house for 30 years. The stats show that the average buyer stays in a home 3 to 5 years.
Wow.
We recommend you stay in at 7 to 10 because that's what an economic cycle is, and that's when you start to get the real benefits of it all. And so, you know, I think that a lot of it is fear of commitment is the big one. But it reminds me of a Jim Rome quote, which is you will either suffer the pain of discipline or suffer the pain of regret.
Oh, wow.
Either way, there's going to be pain involved. There's nothing, at least from my perspective, helping people than whenever someone reaches out to me that is getting ready to retire, has never purchased a house, wants to purchase a house now for stability, and don't have the money saved. And the reason why it's painful is because it is a uphill battle helping someone in that situation.
Yeah, I'm going to say something controversial here for the entire podcast and beneficial to anybody not living in a home yet but wants to buy their first home. This is controversial. I'm not going to give stats on this, but I've been in the business now 11 and a half years. This is the best time since I got in the business for you to buy a home. Period. End of story.
100%.
Because of how desperate builders are, because of how many deals are being thrown out there from the builders, we called it last week, what do we call it? Goofy cash or
Fun money.
Fun money. You know, a lot of people refer to it differently. But if a builder says, "Hey, first-time home buyer, this home's $389, but we're going to give you $50,000 in fun money," what can that be applied to?
I mean, upgrades can be applied to paying closing costs, interest rate buy downs. So there's so much off the house price, depending upon if the house is on the market or not. Builders do love good comps and don't want to spike or punish people that have already purchased, and they don't want to punish future sales and appraisals.
Some builders.
Yeah, they'd rather give you like, let me give you $50,000 in appliances, upgraded floors, nicer blinds, nicer metal roof. And it is amazing what we're seeing being thrown around. Let me give you $20,000 to buy down your rate rather than off the sales price, which affects appraisal. It's just so beautiful right now.
And then the big thing is that just because you can purchase a new construction house on your own doesn't mean you should purchase a new construction house on your own, because you don't know the builder's reputation for that neighborhood. You don't know what the builder's planning on doing. We've seen builders that got too much inventory on a specific neighborhood on the market, and they just sell it to an investor who turns it all into rentals.
Yeah, I think that we've talked a lot about new builds, but I believe that pre-owned homes are excellent as well. I'm in a new home now, but for 10 years I was just buying pre-owned homes and moving from one pre-owned home to another. I love that because it takes kind of the guess out. The layout's already made for me. I don't have 90 decisions of countertops and layout and upstairs and down. It's just already set, and I can just go in and make the colors different or
And
a
you
little
know who
tweak.
your neighbors are.
Know who your neighbors
Yeah.
are. A lot of times you get more mature trees, a little more mature lot. You can get some cool features on a lot that you couldn't on a brand new community.
And that's why meeting with a skilled agent who spends the time to understand you and what you're looking for is so key,
Yeah.
because it's the buyer's dilemma.
Yeah.
And there are pluses and minuses to all of it. The question is what are the trade-offs that you're willing to put up with, and what are the trade-offs you're not willing to put up with? And where is that, and where do you get the best bang for your buck?
So, Jonathan, you made a comment that now is the best time to buy a house almost in our entire careers. And I totally agree with that. Even pre-owned homes, I'm going to say, now is an opportunistic moment for
It is.
buyers. We just had a buyer that closed a week or two ago, and this guy came into me and we did a buyer consult. He had plenty of money. He didn't want to spend it. And he said, I really don't want to do this. So we got him a down payment assistance program through just one of our preferred lenders, covered his entire down payment. I went out and found a house, and because we're moving from a buyer's market into more of a stable or even a seller's market, moving from a seller's market into a stable or even a buyer's market in some cases, we were able to get his entire closing costs paid for by the seller. He came out of pocket to pay his earnest money, his option money, his appraisal, and his inspection. That was it.
What I hear here is if you're a buyer who is interested in buying a home, you are a golden nugget for real estate agents.
Yes.
Yeah, and real estate
skilled.
for a skilled real estate agent, and you're also something that a real estate agent's searching for. I want a buyer because I know I can go win with one. So let me win a Super Bowl. All I need is the buyer. It's like you have a football team but no quarterback. And the moment you find a quarterback, you're like, all right, let's go win this Super Bowl. And if you're a buyer or a buyer on the fence or considering being a buyer, or you want to be a first-time home buyer, you are the quarterback for a Super Bowl winning team. Put me in, coach, is all you have to say.
Oh,
Yeah, and so let's talk about the adverse effect of this. We know what the market's doing right now, and it's a very opportunistic time for buyers. What happens when the rates come down? If the rates come down? Nobody has a crystal ball, but there's a lot of speculation that there's things that are going to occur here in the next 2 months that will cause the rates to start to step down. What do we typically see? We see a lot of the buyers who are on the sidelines right now waiting on that flooding into the market. Back in 2020, 2019, 2020, the market was the most insane market I've ever worked through. Buyers were everywhere, but only a select few could actually afford to buy a house.
Taylor, you remember that market around here? 2019, 2020 in this office, 2021.
That was a fun time.
We had some stories of people offering $1.3 million on something that was $1 million and still not getting it. Because
Right.
I remember actually a good friend, Angela Hornberg, her buyer, her seller got several $100,000 over on $1 million listing. It was listed right at $1 million. I think they got 1.35 or 1.65. I can't remember, but it was several $100,000 over. And one of our team members wrote an offer at like 1.4, and we didn't get it. And we were like, it was $1 million. How did we not get it? $400,000
$400,000 over.
It went like
didn't win.
1.65.
That's amazing.
And we saw, I remember one transaction back then where it was listed for 1.1. The buyer was from California buying a home in Burleson. They gave the seller 1 year free lease back. Said, we'll give you not 1.15, 1.5, a year free. And we want your company to also build us a pool, and we'll pay whatever profit you need on that pool. So like this seller sold his house for $350,000 over, got to live there a year afterwards, and he happened to be a pool builder, so he built a pool and made profit on that. That's the type thing we saw.
Well,
was
and that's
insanity.
Yeah, it was not just insanity, but it's the people leaving from other areas where the prices were so much higher and they saw the value of what we had here in Texas.
Oh, yeah.
And they were used to having to think outside the box because that's what it took to win in that market. And that's why it's important to find someone who knew how to win
Yeah.
the past 5 years when you're selecting an agent because they can see what is ahead and can position you always with it being your choice, but help you set up for success.
Yeah, find the agent who knows how to win regardless of the market.
That's it. That sums it up right there. You know, and I was thinking about people that are watching this or consuming this. Actually, we got some in the chat here. So Blair Pfeiffer says, no PMI, no PMI, double exclamation point, praise hands. Amen, Blair. I love that. Michael Simmer says, I tell that to people, many renters, and they push back with all the objections you're discussing. The deep problem is many people can't handle that mental jump. Yeah, I think that's...
It's the commitment.
Yeah.
Well, so it's more than that. So I actually find that a lot of first-time buyers have the mentality that you mentioned, Jonathan, where they think they've got to have 20%, 30% in order to buy a house. A lot of them just don't understand that you can get into a house for 3.5% down, or in this case, nothing down in some of them. I also find that a lot of people they're afraid of the monthly commitment. And they're thinking, well, you know, I don't want to buy a house until I feel like I can afford it. Well, the truth is you're throwing money away on rent. And in a lot of cases, I can help you find a house for the same amount you're paying rent on.
Yeah, I want to level the playing field too. You don't have to be a home buyer to be listening to this. I brought this quote today. The most powerful and valuable property you'll ever invest in is 6 inches between your ears. So whether you're a homeowner or not, you're still a property owner. Why is that? Because you have mass between your ears. That's property that you're a steward over. And you get to decide how I'm going to set up this future for myself. I want to become a homeowner. Well, you may not be able to be a homeowner today. You know, there might be something preventing you. So reach out to one of us and we can help you put a 2-year plan, 5-year plan,
Right.
7-year plan in place.
But it's back to growth because in order to grow, you must be uncomfortable. I know that the first house I bought, I was definitely uncomfortable with those payments. The next house that I rolled that into, I started off barely qualified.
The second house you bought, I was uncomfortable with your payments. I was uncomfortable for you.
And so the truth is that growth never comes when you want it. It
Yeah.
comes when it has to come because you have to get past something. And so really whenever it came to, and then I refied into a 20-year, and then I refied into a 15-year, growing into my payment. And so this relationship looks totally different when you're 20 and 30 than it does when you're 60, which is what I was working to allude to earlier. Whenever someone has spent their entire life renting and is now at the point where they want to retire and purchase a house, if they haven't been saving money, being disciplined in that area, it's going to be even harder to make that jump than when they were 20 or 30.
Yeah, and you know, I want to ask Taylor, who's our producer and our co-host, is this eye-opening for you, Taylor?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, a lot of it is just like your mind has been trained that you got to put like 20 or 30% down, and rent prices these days. I mean, I have a small 1-bedroom and it's $2,000 a month. Like, it's nothing crazy, and so you're getting into the price of what you would be paying for a home.
That's
Taylor,
so good.
Taylor, I can
That's
get
so
you
good.
a house right now for $1,900 a month, brand new, in Everman, Texas.
It's just down the street.
It's just down the street.
You know, I think, and Taylor brought up a good point that makes me, you know, I don't study rent rates of apartments a lot. It's just not kind of in my day to day. And to hear that, did you say that's a 2-bedroom?
No, it's a 1.
1 bedroom,
It's
1 bath
nothing-
at 2,000.
Nothing fancy.
You know, and I would love to just say to anybody out there, this is no judgment zone at all. This is no judgment zone. You might be renting for a very specific reason. You might need to rent another 2 or 3 years, but you also might be hearing this today and you're like on the verge of ready. And if you're on the verge of ready and you heard Brooks and Jason and I say this, we're going to say it again. We have a Super Bowl winning team that just needs a quarterback. So if anybody is on the verge or very close, just message one of us, put me in, coach, and we will show you with literally no pressure. We're consultants, not salespeople, of how to find a home that you know is in your budget. And if you're already paying $2,000 a month and you've been consistent with your rent, Taylor is not behind on his rent, or he wouldn't be showing up to the office. But we know he's on time with his rent. So if you're someone out there that has a rent rate, just give us the rent rate and say, I might be ready. I pay $2,200 a month now. What is that buying a house? Put me in, coach, and let us show you.
And I think that the other part is are you, if you're a teacher or you work for the government for the most part, like you're going to have a level of job security.
Right.
So are you in an industry that's very dynamic? Are you 1099 or W-2? So there's a couple of parts of that that are really important that set you up for success. But at the end of the day, you have to live someplace. And if you're renting, then it is what Jonathan says. It's 100% interest rate. So waiting for rates to fall is not necessarily a good excuse, because you can lock in a price now, rates can fall, you can refinance like I did, and you'll get a lower interest rate, a lower payment. You'll have the house secured, as opposed to being in a place where there's tons of competition when the rates are lower.
Yeah.
I think what Jonathan said a minute ago is profound, because a good agent, a real professional agent, it's not about selling you a house today or tomorrow. It's about putting a plan in place that's right for you in your current circumstances. And I've had plenty of buyers that it took them a year or 2 years or 3 years to be ready. And it doesn't matter whether it's 9 days, 9 months, or 9 years, I'm still going to be here. But if I'm doing the right thing by them, it goes back to that relationship. I've created a relationship that not only is going to benefit both of us at some point, but you're more likely to refer business to me because of the way I treated you with respect, with dignity, and with honesty.
Yeah, in the last 10 minutes of this episode, I would love you to drop the city and state you're watching from, and we're going to kind of reference some of that. And if you have any questions on anything we've talked about today, any topic, you want to take it any direction, we will let the chat take us in a direction based on when they come in, and we'll see them. So any questions you have, any thoughts you have, any ahas from today, I loved it that the last 2 episodes we've had ahas. So an aha is when something sticks in your head that needs to be repeated. So if you've got an aha, drop it in the chat down there below. And we would believe that this will be a success anytime someone learned anything from the podcast, was inspired anyway, or if we added 1 subscriber to our YouTube channel. So if you're watching this and you're not already subscribed to our YouTube channel and you haven't already smashed that bell where you get a notification when we go live, go ahead and do that. We are at The Infinite Agent on YouTube, and we would love for you to subscribe today. I was just going to say this real quick. Every door you open in real estate leads to a lesson. Some teach profit, some teach patience, but all teach progress. There have been times where I thought it was a great deal. I purchased it, and it took a few years before the market caught up to the price I paid. But to Brooks' point, and to piggyback off what Brooks said, every home that I have lived in as my primary residence, I have bought in disregard to where the market is. I married the house and I dated the rate. And then if I needed to refi later, I could. But I was so happy to have that corner property on a cul-de-sac with a shop, or the acreage with a pond, or fill in the blank. But my needs were met. Yeah, I might be at 8.5% for a while, but I'm in the home of my dreams. And that's probably the most important thing as somebody who is successful and works hard. Where you live and what you drive, that develops your environment more than almost anything other than where you go to church and where you work. So if you can fix and pay for where you live, I would say, what else are you working for if you can't pay for the perfect place to live?
And if the payment matches your budget, then go ahead and do it. If rates go down, great. If they don't, you're already in a good spot.
Yeah.
And so anyone who doesn't currently own and doesn't think that they ever could own, I want to challenge you to change your mindset, because that's what we do a lot here is we change our mindset. Jason will tell you, when I got into this business as an agent and not as an admin, talking to people on the phone was horrific. Many people thought that I was not going to make it, that I would wash out, that I could not communicate very well, and it was like nails on the chalkboard. But I stuck to it, stuck with it, and look at me now.
I love this. So the quote in the chat, Barry P. Bledsoe says, so the couple that I sold in Cleburne bought a home at 4.99% this last week with $1,000 earnest money out of pocket. The home builder threw in wood blinds, refrigerator, washer and dryer, garage door opener. $1,000 out of pocket. That is incredible. If you want to find out how to win like that, message Barry, message Jason, message Chad, message Brooks, message myself. We can literally get you in a home for not tens of thousands,
Right.
but right around $1,000.
And that same builder is now $500 earnest money.
Yep.
Unreal.
Yeah.
Just unreal. Yeah, I mean, and this is not what the media wants you to hear, because the media sells the F word, which is fear. Because if they can sell fear and keep you attached, they can sell advertising. So we're selling good news. This podcast is full of, like Brooks said, a changed mindset.
And here's something that I challenge people that want to be investors but don't know where to start. You can set a pattern of purchasing a house every couple of years and use FHA for your first one, conventional for your next ones, and build a real estate portfolio with little out-of-pocket money with just the minimum down payment and closing costs, as opposed to 20% down, having an interest rate that is 1% above par. And if you have this plan every 2 to 3 years, in 5 years, you'll have 2 houses. In 10 years, you could have 5. And just think about that. Think about how at 20 years, you could have 10 houses, 10 rentals, with the first one being way paid down, almost paid off, and the second one just following right, third one following, fourth one following.
So good.
You could easily build a real estate portfolio just changing your houses every couple of years. And then also rolling it into the next one. You don't necessarily have to do that, but you could sell one and then buy 2 houses. So there's so many different advantages just owning real estate and having rentals that make yourself independently wealthy. But if you don't have the thought, how could you have the dream?
I'll piggyback off that, because I think that if anybody asks me, do I have any regrets being a homeowner? That's the one regret that I have, is not keeping previous houses as rentals and selling them and rolling it forward. Now, I live in a very nice house, and it's paid way down because I rolled it forward. However, I look back at what I would have had if I'd have kept those houses.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, they say sell real estate and never look back, because the days that I've driven down streets on property I owned and I see what they look like now, or I know the value of what I sold it for and what it's worth now, if you sell, you just can't look back.
That's 100%. Yeah.
And what if they follow Dave Ramsey, says Michael Simmers. And
I love Dave Ramsey.
Yeah.
you know,
I got cut short.
this question, Michael, ask it in a more specific way. What portion of Dave Ramsey do you want us to talk about?
I mean, Dave Ramsey encourages you to buy. He encourages you to be first fiscally disciplined, spend money on your house and not your car, and think about what you're going to be more purposeful.
Yeah.
And in so doing, you're going to grow wealth.
So there's a misconception about Dave Ramsey, and that is that he's encouraging everybody to buy cash. And that's not necessarily true. Dave Ramsey partners with real estate agents. Dave Ramsey partners with mortgage companies, and he's encouraging people to be financially sound.
Right.
And there's a big difference.
Yeah, he talks about good debt versus bad debt.
Correct.
And good debt is when what you owe on it is worth more than what your payoff is. I mean, debt is still leverage. Bad debt is when you buy a car using debt and you drive it off the parking lot and you need gap insurance because it's already upside down from what you paid for it and what it's worth just 10 seconds after you leave the concrete of the dealership, right?
Yeah.
He talks about the leverage that Brooks was talking about. So what if they follow Dave Ramsey? Talk about the leverage that you were talking about.
Well, so every time it's you buying a primary residence, and what you're getting out of is a primary residence, and you're not going to do that if the numbers don't work to turn it into a rental. And then you're also going to want to make sure that you have a professional property manager, because the learning curve on renting and being your own landlord and property manager is a steep curve.
Yeah.
Jonathan, do you manage your own rentals?
We have an in-house property manager that charges 4%, which is really cheap.
Oh, yeah.
There's 6, 7, 4, 10%. You know, a lot of people think, oh, property manager is going to take 20% of my profits every month. If you find a good one and you negotiate well, you can find win-win deals that are 4% property management. And, you know, on a $2,000 a month, 4% is $80 a month.
And when it comes to that, what you're hiring them for is to keep out the bad tenants and make sure that they can weed through to find the good ones, because a tenant can damage your property anywhere from 10% or more whenever they move out or in that first year.
I want to take this one. Holly Hudson. What up, Holly? One of my good friends there. I'm not a huge fan of Dave. I like half of what he says, but he is so safe in risk and reward. There's so much growth left on the table. And, I kind of agree with this. The Dave Ramsey model works for a lot of people, the debt-free scream and all those pieces. I've gotten high on opium for years, and opium is other people's money, OPM. I don't do drugs. But I would encourage you to find a great regional bank if you want to create wealth in real estate. Not a Chase, not a Bank of America, not a Wells Fargo, something like a Pinnacle Bank, a National Bank of Texas, a Frost, something regionally where the president is a member of a Colonial Country Club or a Mira Vista. And the more they get to know, like, and trust you, the more money they will lend you, not based on what your financials say, but more how you steward the wealth that you are stewarding over. They'll lend you more and a little bit more and a little bit more, and you steward it well and a little bit more. And so I use opium all the time.
Yeah, there's trillions of dollars looking for a place to be parked. And when it comes to the deal, finding the deal is the opportunity because the money is looking to go towards that deal.
Find the deal, the money will show up.
Yep.
That's it.
Yeah.
And Holly, when I say I love Dave Ramsey, I also don't agree with everything Dave says. But what I do like is that Dave is teaching people how to be financially smart.
Yeah.
And when buyers come to me that are followers of Dave Ramsey, the transactions go smooth almost every time.
It's not the plan, but it's a plan.
It's a plan.
And it's the pendulum. So the pendulum swings from one extreme to the other. So he is more of the extreme of the opposite of the debt slavery, but that's part of his growth. He had all of this money that he had borrowed. He thought that he was in a good position. 2008 happens. He gets taken to the cleaners by all the banks. So, of course, he's going to hate the banks.
Yeah.
Though when it comes to it, you have to take everything in moderation.
100%.
But the basis of what Dave teaches is great. It creates a good citizen because they're saving. They're not overextending themselves. And one of the things we were talking about this week in the office was how so many people are taking loans out for lunch. They're taking loans out to pay for DoorDash or Uber Eats, getting that set up on a payment plan. And Dave is a reactionary to that, saying that is not the path to success. And people need to hear that, especially because we no longer have the training in high school of balancing a checkbook.
Right.
We no longer have the training of how debt actually works and how debt can be used against you at the wrong time.
Yeah, there's going to be something that we do real soon around the school year where we're going to be giving backpacks away with Realty of America to students in need. So we're going to talk about that on the next episode. So if you want to be a part of giving backpacks away, maybe you're blessed enough to where $15 doesn't make or break you, and you want to be able to give a backpack away to a child in need, it is so rewarding. You think about when you show up to work, the things that you need to show up to work. For me and Jason, Brooks, and Chad, it's a suit, it's a tie. But there's some businessmen and women that can't afford the suit and tie. Well, the same thing goes in the halls of the elementary, middle, and high schools, and even colleges, where they can't afford a new backpack, and they're carrying something that is so embarrassing and tattered. But for us to replace that old janky backpack and give them a brand new one is such a rewarding experience. So if you're consuming this podcast today and you're watching the Infinite Agent podcast live or on the replay, and you want to be a part of this backpack giveaway, we would love to connect you. We're going to be doing this in August, so next month. Realty of America is our brokerage, and they're the ones that are leading this initiative. We're just going to be the ones doing it here in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. So if you want to be a part of giving a backpack to a student in need, we're right here in Crowley, where one of the giveaway locations will be that day where kids can come pick up backpacks from us literally for free. And it's so empowering to these children. So if that's something you want to be a part of, just be watching for that on our Instagram, our Facebook, and all those places where you follow us. And I have to say a big thank you to everyone that has been in the chat today, because there's been so many that we haven't even been able to get to. And the conversation is so much better. Would y'all not agree whenever there's chat going on back and forth? And we love
Absolutely.
that.
It's not a stale conversation.
Exactly. And Taylor was in the conversation today.
We need you guys on the chat because otherwise I have to listen to Brooks most of the time.
Yeah, that I'll let y'all duke that out. I don't want to know what happened in the hallway after last week's episode. But Taylor puts me in a headlock and locks me in the office, and I can't get out. And he bullies me, and looks like Jason bullies Brooks a little bit. It's kind of not fair, but I've learned to live with it, and I'll get over it through counseling and therapy. I love you, Taylor. But this is my sad story. If anybody wants to donate to my counseling, it's $5 a week. Okay. All right. So thank you guys so much for watching today. I hope you learned something. If you learned something at all, put it in the ahas in the chat below. And guys, we'll be right back here every Wednesday, same time, same place at Airwave Studios, 3:30 to 4:30. Hope you guys will put it on your calendar. Tune in with us. If you are watching behind the wheel, I would love to know that as well. Just put the steering wheel emoji, and that would bless us as well. Hopefully you're riding in style and listening safely. Taylor, thank you so much for being a part of this today and producing another great show for us.
Yes.
Go.